Assalamualaikum and good greetings. So today we'll be watching a video titled "Where did Jesus go after his birth?" Bible Contradiction number 4. So if you have watched the previous videos, you know that this is a series, part of a series of videos that I watch to learn basically more about Christianity. So we are in a list of videos where it covers supposedly Bible contradiction and it addresses them. So this is number 4. If you are interested in the previous videos, feel free to look at the description box below, where it listed down all the videos, inshallah. So without further ado, let's watch.
Supposed Bible contradiction. Where did Jesus go after his birth? Jerusalem or Egypt? Matthew records Jesus was taken to Egypt to escape from Herod the Great. However, Luke doesn't mention this trip, and instead says Joseph and Mary took Jesus to Jerusalem for dedication and purification before returning to Nazareth. So do the accounts contradict? Only if we assume an argument from silence is valid. The supposed contradiction is based on an odd assumption that both Matthew and Luke...
Okay, just as a disclaimer as well, in the previous video I also mentioned this, that the first two contradiction I'm very familiar with, as well as I see the merit of pointing out those contradiction. On the number 3rd, I didn't see that contradiction as being something that is that significant to begin with, and I haven't heard before those pointing out those contradiction. In this one as well, it doesn't seem to be well, and unless because I haven't actually read through the passage itself. If the passage indicates as if right after this he go there, and then at the same point right after this he goes there, then it appear to be a direct contradiction, because right after this you can go only one way or another. But if we just say that go there and go there, it may be at a different time frame. So
Luke are each claiming to include all the whereabouts of Jesus' life. In reality, both accounts are talking about different events, and neither says the other did not happen. Luke speaks about a Jewish ritual where firstborn males were taken to the temple to be consecrated before the Lord.
Now, in terms of what is being silent in any particular narrative, so that is interesting from the perspective of whether, because if one is writing events or stories from that is obtained from someone, from a source, right? So from that perspective, I think it is normal that whatever he told maybe not include every detail or every event. But if the author claimed to be writing a biography or some sort, then it would be a bit weird that either you do not know about this event, hence you do not include it, or is there any reason you do not include it, or you actually think it doesn't happen, hence does it contradict, etc. Right? So it depends on, to begin with, what the author claimed to be writing. Right? So I haven't actually gone through any video or explanation about that. Each of the writer of each books in the Bible or each gospel, what are they claiming to write? Is it I'm relaying here the stories, all the stories that I can obtain from this particular source, for example, right? So then I can accept it as such. Or this is the full story of Jesus, for example, that I can obtain from various sources that I have searched through. That would be a different way of looking at it. So what exactly did they claim to write?
This would have been a short trip and a customary ritual, something Matthew, writing to Jews, would not need to mention. Luke, writing to Gentiles, is giving the customary context Gentiles would not have known about. The objection is based on the assumption that Luke means verse 39 of the family returning to Nazareth immediately follows after verse 38, when Jesus was in the temple. However, Luke never claimed to write a complete and exhaustive account of everything that happened to Christ. And it is known he left several gaps in his Gospel and Acts, such as Jesus' appearances in Galilee, Paul's time in Arabia, and a 4-year gap between Acts 12 and 13, among many other places. It is perfectly consistent with ancient biographies to leave out events and details of a particular person and focus only on certain aspects. I mean, Luke never says Jesus did not spend time in Egypt. Richard Burridge even says...
So, what's his purpose to write then? Because meaning they didn't purposely writing history then. They want to write a certain narrative, I guess. Hence, they highlight only things that they see fitting, or they see important or significant for their for their narrative that they want to establish. Is that what they are writing?
Critics pointed out the lack of full treatment, childhood stories, psychological development, and so on in the Gospels. However, these aspects are also missing from other ancient biographies. Plutarch wrote several ancient biographies in parallel lives and leaves out details other ancient writers mention. Yet no one claims contradictions between these two, only that each writer chose to mention different details. So why would the accounts of Matthew and Luke be treated differently? If gaps were a necessary feature of ancient biographies, it can easily be argued Luke left a gap in chapter 2 between verse 38 and 39, which is a consistent feature in his writings. It is assumed through misreading scripture with Western eyes that Mary and Joseph would have only gone to Bethlehem shortly, just for the census and to have the child, then would have probably left and returned home, only stopping by Jerusalem once on the way back. However, this is a Western view of travel. Scholars Randolph Richards and Brandon O'Brien point out it is more likely Joseph and Mary would have remained in Bethlehem for 2 years, picking up carpentry work where it could be found. They note ancient people did not have the sense of constant rush like many modern Westerners do, and could remain in different regions for a while if people were welcoming and work was available. It is not like today, where there is a large house with bills waiting for them in Nazareth. Most of the ancient poor would have had their possessions with them, and could have set up just about anywhere. This is also indicated in Matthew, as it appears some time had passed before the wise men arrived. Thus it appears Joseph and Mary remained in Bethlehem for a while. Therefore, after Jesus was born, Mary and Joseph took him to Jerusalem to be consecrated. Luke skips ahead at this point, leaving out that they returned to Bethlehem, where they remained until the wise men had left. Then they escaped to Egypt and remained there until Herod the Great had died, and then finally went back to settle in Nazareth. Matthew, who wished to show Jesus was the fulfillment of the Old Covenant, had an important interest in mentioning how Jesus came out of Egypt, whereas Luke was not focusing on that, so he could simply move ahead. Therefore, because different ancient biographers, writing about the same person, would at times mention different events, and it does not imply a contradiction, and if we're going to be fair, this should obviously apply to the Gospels as well. Thus, this supposed contradiction is nothing more than an argument from silence.
Alright, yeah, so I haven't gone into why or what is the interest of each author writing down what they write, right? What's the purpose, what's the context, etc. So I don't know that, so I don't know. Second, it seems that this is refuting contradiction highlighted by the West, because the West say that no, it's illogical for this one to write as such unless blah blah blah, right? Because the assumption of how people travel. So that is also interesting in the sense that, because if I want to go in deeper into this particular topic, I would actually read how it is being written, and does it imply time frame, does it imply immediate action, does it imply etc., right? So if the writing actually implies certain thing, maybe that has a merit for certain perspective to say that, you know, this contradict what can be assumed to be the normal pattern of how people travel, etc. Anyway, so yeah, as of now, I'm just going through these videos to just understand what is the response to supposedly contradiction. And as I mentioned, the number 3 and number 4 I have never heard before anyone brought up this contradiction, so I'm not sure how significant contradiction this is in the eyes of anyone who raised this issue. Anyway, with this, thank you for watching. See you next time.